Thank you all for coming. I'd like to call to order this school board meeting of Tuesday, December 18th. Member Sanson, can you call the roll, please?
I can. All right, Member Gorham.
Present.
Chair Kirby.
Here.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Member Lofold.
Here.
Member Oswald.
Right here.
I am present. Member Trinka.
Here.
Superintendent Gronseth.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Horton. Here. Deputy Clerk Erickson. She's back there. All right, Secretary Dolans.
Here.
And Secretary Thibault.
Here.
Student Rep Carlos. And Student Rep White.
Here.
Oh my gosh, last meeting, you guys. Welcome. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, will you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. What do we have next? Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Loeffler-Kemp. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sanson. Any discussion? Member Trinka.
Yeah, I move to, I'd like to motion to postpone indefinitely Resolution B-12-18-3609 from the Business Committee agenda under the guidance of administration and leadership around the combined polling places resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion about this? Seeing none, all in favor of postponing indefinitely the resolution mentioned by Member
12-18-3609.
Thank you. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of postponing indefinitely this resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That's postponed indefinitely. Any further discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Then the agenda is approved. Next, reading and approving of our previous minutes of our regular school board meeting of November 20th. Is there a motion to approve these as written?
So moved.
Moved by Member Loeffler, seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all of in favor of approving those minutes of November 20th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. They are approved. Next, we have school and community recognition.
And then we have truth and taxation,
Right.
so you can just sit down after that.
Okay, we can stay down there.
It's about to break into an interpretive dance there for a moment. Members of the board, this month we're recognizing Guadam Reddy from Duluth East High School. The ACT and SAT are college entrance exams. Out of the 1.8 million students who take the ACT every year, only about 1,000 get the highest possible score. Guadam Reddy earned a perfect or near perfect score in all 5 of the ACT and SAT college entrance exams he took, a rare and remarkable feat. When interviewed by the local paper, he said, "If you're going to do anything, you should try to do it to the best of your abilities." He also said something very important. There's more to a student than just some test numbers and whatnot. And there certainly is much more to Guadam than a perfect test score. He takes AP and college in the school courses at Duluth East. He's a member of the school's National Honor Society. He is a recipient of the AP Scholar Award and Duluth East Academic Letter Award. Guadam does healthcare-related volunteer work at St. Luke's, Essentia, Salve Hospice House, and Chris Jensen. Working with UMD graduate students and a professor, he has conducted cancer research and co-authored 4 peer-reviewed research publications. His school activities include math team, tutor, STEM club, and Knowledge Bowl. He plays the guitar and is in judo, brown belt through the Duluth Judo Club. Congratulations, Guadam, for your accomplishments on the ACT, SAT, and for inspiring us with your enthusiasm for learning new skills and taking on new challenges.
Good evening. This is almost as good as going to the movies. Truth and taxation. This is a great opportunity for the students that are here tonight to hear how awesome school finance is. I'm so excited for you guys back there. Tonight we're here because there's a statutory obligation that every municipality, including school districts, has a truth and taxation hearing, and that is covered under Minnesota Statute 275.065. And our purpose tonight is to talk about the payable 2019 levy certification, to talk about the current fiscal year 19 budget, and then also to allow public comment and questions. The process for the 2019 payable levy started back in July. The district process is submitting information to the Department of Education, the Department of Education providing information to us, and then we continue to edit and change that information all the way through our first run, which becomes available to the districts in September of 2018. That first run is almost always just that first estimate, and many times levies will change 5, 6, even 10 times before September 30th. In September, the school board must also adopt the proposed levy. So oftentimes the school levy is still in flux while the board is being asked to approve the proposed levy. So you'll often hear that word maximum, and sometimes that can be a little unnerving because we won't know the number until September 30th or later. So that maximum provides us the opportunity to continue editing and allows the Department of Education to continue editing. This year, the district also was running a education levy or operating referendum, and that vote was going to be on November 6th. So we didn't have that information at the time of the proposed levy. So the levy certification that was proposed and accepted and certified in September did not include the renewal or any of the other questions that were being asked in November. And now in November, that election happened, or the referendum happened. We were successful on 2 of the 3 questions. So that gets added on to the final certified levy that's going to be approved tonight. And then also in November, the proposed property tax statements are mailed to all the taxpayers in the district. And that will not include the results of the referendum, Even though we knew that information on November 7th or the night of November 6th, and proposed property tax statements don't come out until about the third week of November, the process is the proposed levy is what shows up on the tax statements, and now in the spring, when you get your actual tax statements, you'll see the results of that referendum as well. Tonight is our public hearing, and then the school board will adopt the final certified levy. So we need to talk about the referendum and the levy certification prior to the referendum and then post-referendum. So what people will see on their proposed property tax statements is a levy change of about 1.65%. You can see in the first column, this is where, and the blue bars are the payable 18 levy that was last year. The green bars are the proposed 2019 for fiscal year 20. The blue bar shows that we had an existing referendum last year. The public needed to renew the first question in order for us to get that back onto the levy certification. So at the proposed, question 1 from 2013, the $371.78 does not show up on the proposed. You can also see that under the second column, this is also a category that has some district levies that also have some aid portions to it. It looks like it's going down, but interestingly, because of the complexity of the levy process, there's actually an adjustment that belongs in column 1 in section 1, but because there's no levy there, the adjustment couldn't happen there yet. So it looks like a reduction, but when we see the final levy, you will see a little bit of an increase there. The general NTC other, the third category, this is a hodgepodge of different levies that we have, and we can see that that one is growing. This includes things like operating capital, safe schools, our long-term facilities, lease levies, our reemployment or unemployment, and several other categories. The community service levy is almost always a stable levy for most school districts, and it's not any different here at Duluth Public Schools. The community service levy is just adjusting slightly down due to some prior year adjustments. And then the debt service other we can see is going up, and that was due to some prior year adjustments and then a slight change in one of our debt service schedules. So overall, we had some areas going down, we had some areas going up, and the net effect was about 1.65% or $524,000. The summary here is just that those changes were caused by the levy going up due to updated pupil counts. Pupil counts are always estimates, and then as we get better information, the levy adjusts. So many pieces of the levy certification that we're talking about tonight are actually from prior years, not the current year. The long-term facilities maintenance program had project approval, so those are on this levy now, so that was part of the increase. There was a change in the unemployment adjustment from last year that made it look like an effect of a decrease this year, or an increase this year. And then our debt service payment schedule adjusted, so that caused an increase as well. But then the levy was decreasing to the 2013 referendum expiring and needing approval, and then prior year adjustments. So come November 6th, we have our referendum. We have successful questions, and that's going to change the levy, and that's the certification that's going to happen tonight with the school board. So we can see now that from the payable 18 levy to what happened now with the successful referendum is column 1 with the general RMV voter, which is where the referendum is. We now are going up $4.2 million. Now, we had just mentioned that with the successful referendum and question 2, that's generating about $5 million of new referendum revenue. And the reason that the levy is only going up $4.2 million here is because there's prior year adjustments that are lowering that for 1 year. So sometimes what we know is happening and then what's reflected in a total will be different because there's things behind the scenes happening. And back on the prior slide, we could see that general RMV other had gone down. Now it's going up slightly because that adjustment moved from that column to the first column. And then the rest of the columns stayed the same because there was no impact on any of the other columns due to the referendum. So now you can see that the total levy changed from 1.65% to 25.68%. Part of that due to the new referendum, question 2 passing, and then those other things that were added on at the proposed, including long-term facilities maintenance projects, including the debt service adjustments, and then other prior year adjustments. Just an explanation, this is a little wordy and a little school finance nerdy, but some of my favorite things. Throughout the referendum process, at different presentations and talking with property owners and community members, if question 2 were to pass, it was an estimated average monthly increase on an average home, which was $150,000 taxable market value, would be about $8.50 a month, which was kind of what was shared out in the public. I worked with the St. Louis County Auditor's Office after the election just to confirm that that's what the estimated changes are going to be. And based on our estimated referendum market value as a district, which is $7.4 billion of taxable referendum market value wealth, with the amount of revenue that we needed to generate because of that question 2, which was just a little over $5 million, it creates a tax rate. We multiply that by that average home value, and that gets us $102.80 for the year, or $8.56. So we are saying what we said throughout the referendum is what we should be seeing playing out on your property tax statements if you had that average home value. There was also a tax calculator out on the school district's website, so if you had gone out and looked at that estimate, that would play out as well, because all of those would be tied together with that same property tax calculation. So for the levy share, the levy portion of this presentation, prior to the November education levy, the levy was going up approximately 1.65%, keeping in mind that that included the old referendum dropping off temporarily until it was renewed, the new project costs from LTFM, debt service, and multiple adjustments. And then with the passage of question 2 and the renewal of question 1, we now have a new increased levy certification for the final, including about 16% due to the new question 2, and about 9.6% because of those existing things that happened on the proposed, which gets us to that 25.68%. And again, keeping in mind that the proposed property tax statements that went out in the mail only have the 1.65% because the actual new levy certification will not happen until the spring. That was the levy share, which is exciting. And now we're going to transition into budget. And this is one of my favorite slides to show, because now that we're transitioning from the levy certification to our budget, this slide represents in green what the levy share of our total revenues are. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that our property tax collections are a huge part of our revenue, and we can see that with our total budget, revenue budget for 2019, which is about $143 million, the levy share is just about 22%. Now keep in mind, this year's budget uses last year's levy, not the current year levy. So we're not talking about the levy that they're proposing to certify tonight. This would be last year's levy. So again, all of the blue is coming from all other sources, and then the green is what the levy certification is generating for the school district. This is a revenue and expense summary by fund for the 2019 school year. It can look a little alarming to have a negative $83 million budget. I know for myself I was a little nervous about that, but there's a little note here at the bottom. This is a debt refunding. The school district, when there's opportunities to refund debt and get a lower interest rate, the district will be able to buy back their bonds and then resell bonds at a lower interest rate. That process happened over 2 fiscal years. So the bond revenue was collected in last fiscal year, so we have that money sitting in escrow, and now the actual sale of those bonds are happening again, so you see this huge expense and very little revenue, but we have that additional revenue sitting in escrow to pay off that difference. So on paper, it looks like a deficit in debt service and the debt redemption fund, but it's really not, because we have that money set aside. In all the other funds, we have a pretty lean budget, and projected surpluses and deficits are quite minor. The Community Service Fund is doing a purposeful spend down of their fund balance. They have some projects and they had some revenues set aside, so they're just spending down some dollars that they had set aside. And then the rest of our funds are just minor changes, either minor surplus or a minor reduction. Breaking out our revenues, so we talked about that $143 million of revenue. This is broken out by different source codes, and this just shows us that the majority of our revenue from all sources comes from state. So our state sources include our general education revenue. It includes our categorical revenues, things like achievement and integration, special education, other categoricals. The local source is going to include our levy certification. It's going to include gifts and bequests. It's going to include fees. It's going to include local tuitions. So you can see that that's about 28%. Our federal sources would include things like our title programs, federal special education, the reimbursable portion of free and reduced lunch, and then other small grants. And you can see that our federal sources in our district are only about 8%, and region-wide it's about 5%. So we can see that the federal sources of our revenue are actually a small portion of our overall budget. The small other local sources would include any bond sales or fund balance transfers. Breaking down the expense side just a little bit here, and I want to note that this is just the general fund, so this isn't all funds. This would be what we call our funds 1, 3, and 5, general, transportation, and capital. And this is just a general overall reflection of where we spend our dollars by program area. And we would want to see, and very happy to see, that our largest share of our expenditures in the general fund are for elementary and secondary instruction. So you can see that green bar is by far almost 40% of our budget goes to elementary and secondary instruction. Second place is our special education revenue, or special education expenditures. This is a growing line item for a lot of districts throughout the state. This is where we're seeing more and more needs, and we see that portion growing throughout the region and throughout the state. You will probably see that as a legislative platform, both for Duluth Public Schools and for schools across the state, because there is not fully funded special education at the state level. We also have our sites and buildings. That would just be all of those costs to maintain all of our district buildings. The pupil support services, which is also one of our higher portion areas, this would include things like our transportation drivers, our food service folks, counselors, school nurses, and other support folks. So that's another piece. And then we have several smaller categories that we can see. And again, you can see that overall, our district administration is less than 5% of our entire budget. Finally, that same expenditure pot of $108 million, we now look at it by what we call our object series. And this takes a look at how do we spend those dollars in terms of what are the uses of those dollars. And we can see that between our salaries and wages and benefits, our budget is about 80% people. And also included in the green pie, which is called purchase services, are also contracted people. So over 80% of our budget are going to be the wages and benefits and services of our people that are employed by the district. And then we have just a small portion for supplies, materials, capital expenditures, and debt service and other things. And again, keeping in mind this is just our general fund. This isn't our total all funds together. And with that, we would open it up for any comments or questions that anyone might have. I will pay someone to ask a question. No questions? You can call me later. I love talking about taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Erickson, for that presentation. Is she still here? Yep, there. Thank you. All right, next we have audience participation. And our first speaker is Danny Dunphy. Welcome. Let me turn. There. It should be on. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Danny. I'm on a number of boards here within the school district. Today I'm here speaking with you as a member of our Education Equity Advisory Council. We are your advisory council from the board in order to look at advising you on issues having to do with our ever-increasing achievement gap, as well as our institutionalized educational inequities within the school district. As some of you may know, that our EACT committee is looking at restructuring so that we can be a stronger, more supportive voice for our communities of color and our indigenous communities within the district. And I'm here to just tell you about that and update you about what we've been doing. As part of that restructuring program, we've actually asked a number of community persons and organizations who are also passionate about this work to come together with us to look at how we're going to be serving on this committee. One of the things that we are looking at too is that we're very interested in building a structure within our committee that's going to be having proactive involvement in issues impacting students from diverse communities, with meaningful dialogue with the school board, interactive dialogue with the school board, and not just us coming and speaking with you, but having meaningful conversations. And also greater accountability and transparency within the district. We believe that these goals will be consistent with the expectations included in ESSA, the Every Child Succeeds Act, and in the North Star system. We will continue to develop this, and more clarity and details on the issues will come up as we meet and continue to meet, and we will be advising you along the way as to how we are progressing. So that's what we know right now.
Thank you. Next is Ann Krafthelder. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Board, to speak to you today. I've got my Pelsby hat on today. And at our last meeting, one of the things that came forward was the coalition, I want to make sure I get it right, Coalition to Increase the Teachers of Color and American Indian Teachers in the state of Minnesota has been gathering together for about 3 years now. They just celebrated their 3rd birthday. And they have a legislative proposal that I sent to all of you today. And in addition to that, Education Minnesota also has a wonderful survey that has been done regarding teachers of color and barriers to recruitment, barriers to retention, that I think speaks volumes about what we have already started to accomplish and what we still need to accomplish. So with Duluth Public Schools, 2 of the things that we have in place are the integration specialists, and the other is Pathways to Teaching. If we could be working very diligently to make sure that we're recruiting more students of color into Pathways to Teaching, that would be wonderful. Not quite sure how that's going to happen, but it certainly is on my list of things that need to be accomplished. So recruitment and retention is one piece, and another piece is supporting people along the way. Oftentimes our teachers of color may be the first person in their family to go through college. It may take longer to get through college. They may have other obligations that need to be taken care of. And it can be a real challenge to meet those test scores. And I want you to know that with Pelsby, one of the things that we've been doing is trying to make it so there are multiple measures in order to get people into teaching. I think that there's a very strong possibility that there could be apprenticeship programs coming down the pike, and Duluth could take a leadership role in that realm, which would mean that people wouldn't necessarily have to meet specific test scores. It would be more portfolio based, so that would be another way that we might be able to get more teachers of color into our district. I have two asks tonight. One is that we get a representative from our Duluth teachers on the coalition at the state level. And the second one is that as the board's legislative agenda is approved, we become another stakeholder group in that particular coalition's legislative platform and become official supporters of the proposed legislation. Soon I will be coming to you to talk about cultural competency training and getting things set up. I've talked to staff development and relicensure committee, but we should have that in place in May for our first teachers to be able to go through that training that will be conducted by Pelsby at no cost, which is lovely. So that's what I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Seeing no other speakers having signed up, we'll move on to reading communications. Any?
I have no formal communications to report.
Thank you. Then you can proceed with report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. And I just, while Anne is standing here, I have to thank her for all of the work that she has done over the years with first the Board of Teaching and now Pelsby. And she has been a great advocate for our teachers in our district and a great voice for Greater Minnesota in many, many trips to the capital. And so thank you for that, and also for your work in bringing pathways to the district and the work that you continue to do to research what other districts are doing and keeping us involved at the state level. And I appreciate all that you do for us. And let's keep working. Thank you, Ann. With that, there have been so many opportunities last week and this week for our students to display their talents. I've had an opportunity to hear them play instruments and sing, and I've seen their artwork, and I have been so impressed. And today, as I was at one of our programs, I was standing with a teacher whose students were up on the risers, and they were singing and playing drums, and she had this look on her face that was just pure pride. And as we were standing there, we mentioned how many people were in the, I don't know, what do we call them, gymatoriums? All of the seats were full. There were people standing in the back. The door was open to the cafeteria. There were people sitting in the cafeteria. And we both looked, and I just mentioned, look at all of the lives that we touch every day. And I can tell you that all of our schools have multiple programs, and they're all just as full in every single school. And we are so appreciative of the community's support and to be able to share all of these events for you to be a part of your child's education and for us to share in different ways, especially during this time of year. And it's certainly creativity and expression that are playing the center. And those are so important to the educational process because a well-balanced education is rich in the arts, and it will help all of our students to be involved. We have so many staff members who help students to cultivate creativity and problem solving and precision and the ability to work with others, and there are just so many ways that the arts improve education and help all of our students to be successful in just about anything that they want to do in their lives. So I just want to recognize the importance of the arts in education tonight. And I'm sure I don't have to remind our students that winter break starts this weekend. Yeah. And school will resume on January 2nd, 2019. And I hope that whatever your family traditions are in December and early January, that your winter break is a chance to recharge and relax. And remember, when we come back, there's just 3 weeks left of the semester. So come back ready to get at it. I also want to take an opportunity to thank our student representatives tonight to the school board. Maggie and Finn have both been outstanding representatives for their schools. The reports have been a highlight of just about every meeting and a great reminder of why we're all here and the importance of the work that we do together. And tonight, they're going to be sharing their final reports as student reps. And we want to recognize you with a certificate and a small token of appreciation. And thank you for everything that you've done. And I have to remember which one's which. This one's for Brandon. This one's for Maggie. Thank you so much. And with that, let's hear from Finn first tonight.
All right, so first I just want to give a shout out to all the East Government students who are here again. We're getting close to the end of the semester, so it's crunch time to get in their government meeting. And then the first thing I want to talk about is our holiday concert, which happened on Saturday, which was a huge success featuring all of our music groups at East. And speaking of our music groups, it's in the middle of their holiday gig season, so they're all going around Duluth and performing all over. It's really fun because you can see them in the hallways in their fancy clothes, looking like they're in a big hurry. And then I also want to talk about Gautam Reddy, who got a perfect score on his ACT and an almost perfect score on the SAT. Not to mention he has, I believe, 5 published scientific papers already. Also, he is on my knowledgeable team, which is really fun. He's a good person to have. Last Thursday, our hockey team had their annual food drive before facing off against Cloquet, who they beat 2-1 in overtime, which was a super exciting game to watch. And then this Thursday, the hockey team is taking on Marshall, and our basketball team is playing Denfeld, so it's going to be a tough decision what game to go to. Right now, we're in the middle of our holiday-themed Spirit Week. On Monday morning, we started the week off with hot chocolate and donut holes for the students as they came into school. And we also wrote compliments on all of the hot chocolate cups so they get a nice little surprise as they were drinking their hot chocolate. And then on Thursday, Student Forum will be making blankets that we can donate to charity as a way of giving back to our community. And keeping in the holiday spirit, East students have had the opportunity to participate in our Giving Tree program through the month of December, which is basically they buy a gift and then it's distributed to a child in need during December. And then on Friday, we'll be putting on our holiday assembly that will display our cheer and dance teams as well as all of the winter sports teams. And then last week, the juniors voted for the 2019 student representative, which will be Vanessa Farrell, who I've known through the debate team, and I've been getting to know her better as I've been training her in, and I'm very confident in her abilities. And I'd just like to end by thanking everyone for the opportunity to be here. It's been a huge pleasure, so thank you.
And Maggie.
Okay, so I too am going to start with the holiday concert that we had. It was yesterday and it was super fun to be a part of and then watch all the talent that everyone at Denfeld has. And our Spirit Week is also this week. And it was announced with a fun little rap video, which you can find on YouTube if you look up Denfeld Holiday Spirit Week 2018. So Monday was Pajama Day. And then today was Holiday Color Day. Tomorrow's Ugly Sweater Day. Thursday's going to be Holiday Character Day. And then Friday is Holiday Vacation Day. And today, Maroon 16 went around downtown and was singing in a lot of places as we made our way to the Holiday Center where we did our little finale to spread holiday cheer. Our math team is doing really good this year. They are currently in first place with their mathlete competition after only 3 weeks. And our hockey team is ranked 6th in the state, and there's a big game against Superior Thursday. And then dance team got 2nd place overall at our conference, but they scored 1st in kick and 2nd in jazz. And I want to give a shout out to Quentin Romoldley, who was accepted to one of his top schools, Yale University. So they'll be really fortunate to have him there. And I know a lot of our students are super excited to be leaving for holiday break and to spend it with their family and friends, especially each day, seeing our countdown go even lower. And then I'd just like to say that I've loved having the opportunity to sit on this board for the last year, and I'm going to miss it a lot. And I've gained many things from being here, like being informed on what's going on in our district, how important student voice is, how important ninth grade speeches can be, and the importance of water during these marathon meetings, and the preconceived thoughts about school members being boring, which is totally not true. And our new school board representative is going to be Emma Natali, and I know she's going to be doing great things for you guys this upcoming year. Thank you.
That's it.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right. Next, we'll move on to the Education Committee. Member Lofald.
Forward. Again, this is our Education Committee report, and it's a reflection of the meeting, the Education Committee meeting that we had last Monday, 4:15, right here. I'm always an advocate for encouraging our community to attend not just our Tuesday school board meeting. So if you need one more meeting to get in before the end of the semester, committee meetings probably also count, don't you think, in the government role. So our Education Committee meets on Mondays, the second Monday of the month at 4:15. We try to be done by 6:30, and I encourage community members to come. Tonight I'll just share a quick overview of the things that we covered and that were presented, but to truly get an idea of all the great things and programs and policies and the things that really are, if we go to the Truth and Taxation PowerPoint and see how much is spent in our budgets on the staff and all that runs our district, then making a point to come or to listen to the Education Committee on our YouTube site is really important, because that's where you get really a broad spectrum of what goes on in our district, so that we do try to keep our community informed. So that's my shout out. So our education meeting, and again, as always too, as a speech teacher coach, I enjoy that our community comes and shares shares at the mic, and so I just want to shout out again Ann Left and Danny too, but thank you again for coming up to share concerns and challenges and celebrations. And anyone sitting out there, even the students, I bet you'd get extra credit if you gave a speech to the school board. Maybe in your public speaking class that you'll take. But again, I just celebrate our ability to do that, and I want to feed back to the members that came from the equity, and Danny and Barb and Kevin, that two-way dialogue is something that the board is always wanting to be invited and to share with. So let's continue that journey. So we had informational items. We have Assistant Superintendent Jeff Horton always starts out our committee meeting with his report, and he was super excited. You should watch that YouTube. He was just really fired up to share with us. He brought some great programs and people to the table last Monday. So we heard from Mr. Donald Simons, and if you haven't met Mr. Simons yet, he is teaching the engineering classes, pre-engineering and other classes around that in the CTE program, and he brought with the actual models that they're making in the engineering program of the aerial lift bridge and the ore ships and some gadgets. So we listened to Mr. Simons talk about all that's going well in the engineering and representing Duluth's landmarks, and it's just one more offering academic class in the area of engineering that's fabulous for our students to be exposed to and to take advantage of, and it's in the area of career and college readiness and our world's best workforce. So again, our hats are off to all the great things going on there, and thanks for sharing that one little snippet of great things that are happening curriculum-wise and offering in the CTE programs. We also were introduced to Patience Thompson, a fourth grader at Myers-Wilkins, and also to Ivy Vanio,
who is in charge of the art and climate cultural programming, and Katie Schmitz, who's the child coordinator of programming at ACO, which is a partner organization that the school district loves to see what they're doing and to celebrate when they are working with some of the same students that are in our district. And we saw things in photography and in cooking, and patients brought us through some of the things that they enjoy, the gardens, and it's just another representation too of the collaboratives and the partnerships and the ways that our students are supported in other areas besides just our classrooms. And we recognize that and appreciate that. And that was happening, all of that programming happens at the Dr. Robert Pultis Cultural Center here in Duluth. And we're very appreciative of all the programs, because we know that in order for us to be successful in our classrooms, we need the whole community and we need partnerships to affect all the change and growth we want. So we thank Mr. Horton for sharing those 2 shout-outs in his report. We also heard about Mr. Horton's recap of his monthly school visit. This time Congdon was the recipient of his presence, and again, as a community, we are all, and as a school board, we are just really supportive of knowing that our leadership is getting out into the building so that our staff and our students see that they're also doing their walkthroughs. And that concluded, along with just a few other caps from Assistant Superintendent Horton, and it's recommended that the Duluth School Board receive Assistant Superintendent Horton's report as informational. Next, as always, on our educational committee, we then hear from Director of our curriculum, Ms. Netlin. And here are just some of the highlights of Ms. Netlin's report to the school board. And again, these are provided on a regular basis at our education committee as a way to update the school board and the community with all of the instructional and curricular things going on in our district. And they tend to highlight different things every month. So the board was given information regarding staff development, especially in pre-K kindergarten, and the science standards that are being drafted in a review event that happened at Piedmont. Also, Curriculum Director Netlin updated us on the fact that it is now, for some of you that are juniors out there, we're in the process of course catalog so that registration can start happening in the high schools. And so we got some update information on that. And she also shared with us curriculum updates for the secondary English language arts text adoption update. So again, this is a recommended that the Duluth School Board receive this report as informational, and we thank Director Netlin for bringing that information to us. We then were given informational presentations, and this too was where I really want our community to focus and to watch and to be involved in, because the 2 program presentations that we saw are vital to the success of our district, and they will share with the community that there are programming going on in our elementaries, our middle schools. Today it was more focused, or last week it was focused on the high schools and the middle schools, but it certainly are things that we are doing and doing well in order for our students to be successful. So we heard about Check and Connect, and I wish I could give you all of the 20-minute presentation that we heard, but this is a program that's a grant-funded program that's happening at Duluth-Denfeld. Right now there's 65 students being served in that program. It's in its 2nd year of actual connection with the students, but the 4th year of being an engaged program, and we've got 1 more year. It's a 5-year grant, and so the presentation was informative, but also, looking for our direction for sustainability, because it's proven to be successful. And that's where I really liked the numbers. Not only did this committee, and this is who presented. We heard from Dr. Tanya Lake, Ms. Tanya Sconyers, who's the principal at Denfeld, Jason Crane, the director of special education, and Sarah Llewellyn, who is the coordinator of the Check and Connect program that's going on. And so again, we heard data, we heard statistics, we heard narratives of students' stories about their success there, and it just captured in that PowerPoint. And you can view that on our YouTube site if you didn't do it. We celebrated the existence of this program at Denfeld. It's an in-school support program to work with our students with disabilities and in the support of our Indigenous and Black students. It had great statistics and data update for the last 3 years. Lots of great things are happening along with challenges that they shared, and this is a grant-supported program, and we hope to be looking at sustaining it and expanding it in the future. and it is recommended that the Duluth School Board receive this report as informational. Then we took a little breather and we went right on to a presentation on attendance. And at this presentation, we heard from, page 3 of my notes, we heard from Assistant Superintendent Jeff Horton, Callie DeVrent, who is a social emotional behavior MTSS coordinator out of Lincoln Park Middle School, but she's also our district-wide mental health partnership coordinator. We also had Amy Lukovitz, who's the Assistant St. Louis County Attorney, and we heard about all of the legal parts of our attendance programs. And we also had at the table Heather Jarvis, who is a TAP. It's called Truancy Action Project. It's supported by the Lutheran Social Services. And we also had at the table Tanya Kurland, who's the Executive Director of the Community Schools Collaborative. So we had great input, a great conversation. All of us, students, you know this, staff that are out there, attendance is our concern. So we just got this overview of our policy. We got the overview of our legal policies. And it just really, and we heard from, I really think that what Callie had to share with us on the social, emotional, the things that are happening in our district are things like PBIS, health and mental health awareness, the Full Community School Collaborative. These are all programs that will address attendance, trauma-informed practices in care, culturally specific lens. We heard from Ann Crafter about training in the cultural responsive in our teachers and staff. So that was also a presentation that was very informative. So it's recommended that the Duluth School Board receive this report as informational. We are on to grant applications. See, we're a busy committee. We had 4 grant applications, and we have to approve the actual application. So what I'm going to share with you right now is just 4 applications that were given to the school board for us to approve that they can even go forward with the grant. So we are approving tonight that we have the Education Minnesota grant, the National Endowment for the Arts grant, and the Whole Foods Co-op Give Program grant. All 3 of those grants are turned in by Christine Valento, who is a middle school art teacher at Lincoln Park. We also have a Richard M. Schultz Family Foundation grant that was written and submitted by Tanya Kurland, who's our Duluth Community Schools Collaborative, in the amount of $25,000 to support existing out-of-school time programming associated at Myers-Wilkins. So it's recommended that the Duluth School Board receive this report, these grants, as informational. And then we have some action to take. So you guys just can't listen to me. You have to actually take some action. So we have the action on the ISD calendar for 2019-20, 2019-2020. How about that? And Assistant Superintendent Horton presented this and recommends that the ISD 709 calendar for review and approval tonight. It's recommended that that was also recommended and approved by the Quality Steering Committee at their December 6th, 2018 meeting. So it's recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the recommended ISD 709 calendar for the 2019-2020 school year. And when we approve my report, we'll also approve that calendar. We have a resolution. We have a resolution E-12-18-3604 that reads like this. Whereas the Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full. And whereas acceptance of the grant in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, because we like to get money to support things. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grant from said organization in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to the following organizations. St. Luke's Foundation. The grant was written by Ron Lake and it was approved. It's for $15,000. It's for Duluth Denfeld and Duluth East. And the funds will be to support a program called the Sources of Strength. It addresses mental health concerns and specifically suicide prevention. So we thank those that have gone out for that grant. And the last grant that's approved and accepted is, well, I hope it's accepted, Arrowhead Manufacturers and Fabricators Association. The writer was Brad Veiths, and it's for $2,000, and the funds will be used to purchase new miter and band saws for Ordine East Middle School. So I move Resolution E-12-18-3604.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution E-12-18-3604. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving this resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
So continuing, just a few brief other things. We are set to approve an extended field trip. We have the 5th grade Wolf Ridge Environmental Learning Center in Finland, Minnesota. The Homecroft 5th graders are going to make that trip in March. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the extended field trip request from Homecroft. And in celebration, we have diploma requests. So it's with sincere congratulations that we are going to add 2 more names to our graduating class of 2018. And we're asked to approve the diplomas of Tri Jordan Ard and for Jacob Ambrose Ard Beaton. So it is recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve this graduation celebration and aforementioned diploma requests. And we celebrate that. Congratulations. So this concludes the Education Committee report for December 18th, 2018, and I move that we approve this report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion? Seeing none? Member Oswald.
I'd like to talk about item 2A1.
2A1. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes.
Member Sandstedt.
I'd like to talk about item 1C1.
Anyone else? Why don't you go ahead, Member Sandstedt?
Okay. I wasn't able to make the meeting, but it was very dense, and I enjoyed it on YouTube, so thank you very much. I just had a question on Check and Connect. My thinking was, hearing about this originally, it was a 9th grade program, but I'm guessing I'm wrong about that, and I'm wondering if we're using it at all grade levels in Denfeld. I'm just looking for clarification on that.
Yes, we do have all grade levels being served at Denfeld.
Thank you. Member Oswald.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note for any of the students that are still here. I spoke about this at the committee meeting, but the calendar for next year, the last day of school, is on Friday, June 5th, instead of a Thursday. So I tried to get it changed. I talked about it, but welcome to your last Friday of school instead of your last Thursday of school.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the Education Committee report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then this passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, Human Resources. Member Gorham.
Thank you, Chair Kirby. We have the Human Resources report. Everybody hear me okay? Excellent. I received some feedback that I may not always speak loud enough, so I just wanted to ensure that you could all hear me. So we have a pretty short, brief report for you today. As always, we review the staffing report, which is a typical monthly thing for us to look at on the Human Resources Committee. And then one action item that we would approve with approval of my report is the minimum wage increase, which impacts a few positions, increasing it from $9.65 to $9.86 per law. So that is the Human Resources Committee report, which I move for December 2018.
Second.
Seconded by Member Trinka this time. Okay. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the HR report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passed unanimously. Excellent job. Well spoken.
I think he gets a speeding ticket.
Yes.
It might be.
And next, our Business Committee. Member Trinka.
Great, thank you. Member Gorham's a tough act to follow. I will not be quite that speedy. I want to start out by thanking our student reps, Maggie and Finn. It's truly been a pleasure to sit across from you two from the last year. I'm always so inspired to hear about the great stuff that's happening at our high schools and across our communities, and I feel really positive about having you two as awesome representatives going out into the world representing Duluth Public Schools as you move on. So thank you both so much for your service and all you do for your schools and your community. We had a full business committee meeting on Tuesday, December 18th. Our business committee meetings have switched. They're no longer on Mondays, they're on Tuesdays. We've flip-flopped with the education committee meeting. So if you want to come and have titillating presentations similar to the truth and tax one tonight, feel free to join us on Tuesdays. We started off with discussing the financial report, and we saw just like a sneak peek of all of the sexy numbers we're going to be looking at over the course of the next 4 months. I'm really in the holiday spirit today. Just as an update for everyone, our final audit done by our auditors, Whitfley, is in the process of being completed. It will be submitted per state requirements by the end of the year, but will be covered in full, we believe, at one of our January meetings. And so if you're interested in learning, maybe for some of you who might be interested in being an auditor someday, you can come and learn from the folks at Whitfley about our audit for this last year. Also, moving forward, I know that most of us have had the chance to sit down one-on-one with our new CFO, Kathy Erickson, and thank you for taking the time to do that. Kathy is really interested in working with us and with our community on educating not only the board but also the community about the complex components of school finance, and also looking at ways to shift the budget to make it more approachable and more understandable for the school board members as well as for the community. So I appreciate all of the work that you and Peggy have already put into that, and look forward to having riveting educational presentations at our business committee meetings moving forward. Any additional comments on the financials, CFO Erickson? No? Okay, great. Great. So then we talked a little bit about some budget revisions, wire transfers, investments, APU projections, and fundraisers. We are going to look at changing the way that we talk about APU projections moving forward as well, again, to help the board, the staff, administration understand our per pupil units and how that impacts our budgets and our overall plans as well moving forward. So looking forward to that. We had no bids, RFPs, or quotes. So now we will move on to policies and regulations. The first is a change to the policy around the fund balance. And CFO Erickson gave us a really good educational presentation on what this is. And so the change that we're looking at in this particular policy is to change the maintenance of a minimum unassigned general fund balance to 8% from 10%. And recognizing that it will take us a while to get to that 8% because we don't want to do it just right away off the bat, but using a gradual procedure to get us to that 8% going in annually to our unrestricted general fund, which would then remove policy 3017. Next, we'll move on to resolutions, and we have a resolution on the acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. Resolution B-12-18-3607, which has over 2 pages of generous donations from people across the community, 3 pages, over 3 pages. So whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to those various individuals and organizations. With that, I move Resolution B-12-18-3606.
Second.
Seconded by Member Lofald. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of passing B 12-18-3606, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
Next is a resolution to change an authorized bank account signer at Congdon Park. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that it hereby authorizes the following. Adding Heidi Klassen and removing Milkia Carroll as a signer. So I move Resolution B-12-18-3607.
Seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of passing Resolution B-12-18-3607, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
Here's the big one. The next is the Resolution B-12-18-3608, the resolution of Certified Tax Levy 2018 payable 2019. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, not Missouri, to hereby set the tax levy for 2018 payable 2019 at $39,837,624.11.
Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion? Member Sandsted.
I'd just like to thank CFO Erickson for the thorough analysis, and I think it's good to move forward and to make sure that everybody's aware of where our money's coming from locally and how much we're taking, and that we're going to put it to good use. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B-12-18-3608, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It passes unanimously.
Great. The next resolution is B-12-18-3610. Would you like me to read the entire resolution, Chair Kirby?
Let me see. I
think I read a three-page one at a committee meeting, so. We're on page 126.
Right. I'm looking at it here. It is quite long.
This is the one we postponed.
No, we postponed the polling place.
Just safe routes to school.
Okay.
Do the first. Yeah. It's your choice.
First and last. All right,
Yeah.
So here we go. This is the, Chair Kirby made me read literally a three-page resolution a couple weeks ago. So, resolution of support authorizing acceptance of safe routes to school grants related to providing improvements to pedestrian access to various schools in the city of Duluth. Resolved that the City of Duluth City act as a legal sponsor for the Safe Routes to School project as contained in the 2018 infrastructure grant applications to be submitted prior to January 4th, 2019, and that the mayor and the clerk are hereby authorized to apply to the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for a grant not to exceed $300,000 for funding of each of the following two projects. 1, sidewalk improvements along designated safe routes to school to Lincoln Park Middle School. And 2, pedestrian crossing improvements identified in safe routes to school plans for elementary school. Further resolved that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to execute such documents as necessary to implement the project on behalf of the city. I move resolution B-12-18-3610.
Second. Thank you. Seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? Member Leffler-Kemp.
I just wanted to make a comment on this one that I think this is another just really great example of the partnerships that we have with the city and the county, and this is federal dollars as well, in working to provide safe routes for our kids across the district getting to and from school. And so I just wanted to kind of point out this is a partnership that is with other levels of government as well.
Thank you. And I'd mentioned that all of the whereases that were skipped over are available to the public too, so they can read them. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B-12-18-3610, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And this passes unanimously.
Great. We had a couple of, a number of informational items, quite a few expenditure contracts this month. For different services across the district, as well as a number of no-cost contracts. And I think this is the first month I did not bring up a single contract question. We had our facilities management and capital project status report, which, as always, we really appreciate how thorough and brief it is, so thank you, Mr. Spooner, for that. And finally, some property sale updates. The superintendent spoke earlier about the sale of the Hartley property and us continuing to try to sell some additional parts of that. We've had some additional interest in the sale of Central High School, go Troy. And we'll continue to talk about those at upcoming meetings. In January, we'll be talking about, just as an FYI, we'll be talking about the audit. We'll start talking budget really soon, which I know CFO Erickson's very excited about. We'll be discussing our 2019 legislative agenda in January, and we'll be meeting with representatives from our local area in January as well. And then we'll continue to have policy updates. So with that, I move the business committee report for Tuesday, December 18th.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the business committee report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then this is accepted unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a special resolution. I can find it here. Oops, I don't have it on here. Somebody have it on? I have it. Oh, Member Lofo, can you read that special resolution, please?
It's Resolution SP-12-18-3605. It's a resolution for board member attendance at 2019 MSBA Leadership Conference. Resolved, the Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, pay costs incurred as per district policy for school board members to attend the Minnesota School Boards Association 2019 Leadership Conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota on January 16th through the 18th, 2019. I move Resolution SP-12-18-3605.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of approving a special resolution SP 12-18-3605, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments?
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn in a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.